Hello, this is Liz with Crafty Devotion, and I've been working on a couple of flowers because I just got an order for a beautiful wreath, and the wreath has a lot of pretty colors in it, but I want to show you how to make these flowers. I'm going to show it to you first, and then I'm going to go into more detail later. And this is because one of the biggest complaints I get on my channel is that I take too much time talking. Well, the reason why that happens is because there are different types of learners. So you're just not the type of learner that enjoys chit chat, and a lot of my followers do enjoy chit chat. And so I recommend that if you are like that and you see my old videos, make use of the fast forward button or the speed button. If you go up to the top of your of this channel, you'll find that there is a little gear button, and if you take that gear button, you click on it, you can make the speed faster on your video. I use it all the time. A lot of times I'm in a certain mood and I'm like, I don't really want to, I just want to hear what you're saying, but I want you to go by faster. I'm not really watching it. And then other times I'll do it slower. So feel free to use fast forward, to use, and if you do that and you find that, oh, this is where it starts, comment on the bottom and tell people when it starts, and then when my tutorial starts. Because I have a lot of old tutorials and I was new to crafting then, and I did the best I could. I was learning as I was going, and as I was learning, I was also teaching new ideas I had. So that's what you do. So this is how I create these. I have lots of tutorials on how to create these flowers. So this is how I create them. And if you want more details on how I create these flowers, you just hang on, and I'm going to go and do one more, maybe one or two more for you, but I will do it at the end. Because that way, those of you who want it faster will see me go straight to it, and then you can figure it out on your own, or you can stay a bit longer and I can teach you a few more details on how to make these flowers. These flowers are made from fabric, and the fabric is this is a vintage lining fabric. I'm pretty sure this is a vintage piece that I have. I like dusty rose and old rose colors, kind of like a mauve-y dusty rose. I carry a lot of those things in my Etsy shop, so you'll find that along with a bunch of laces, mini laces and things. I like a variety of things, so you might want to go check out the new things I have in my shop. And so, like I said, I'm going to give you a little more instruction in a little bit for those of you who want to hang on. But this is how they are. I make them quite easily. I'm saying easily, but really each fabric I use, I have to go figure out like what's the best way, what size petals. So although it looks easy, if you use different fabrics, you need to experiment with your fabrics, making your petals thicker, making your petals thinner, depending on what kind of flower you want it to look like. Let me give you an example. Let's see, there we go. So now this is done. There's the flower, and now you do like this one here is the same one, but as you can see, I actually melted the ends of this. So one of the things I like about the lining fabrics is most of them are made from a synthetic fabrics, and you can I'm going to use a lighter right now just so you can just kind of get an idea of what I do. I do this. Okay. So if you want to hang on here, I'm going to show you more details on how I actually cut the fabric and what I'm doing. And I just wanted to give you an example of if you're going to use a lighter, don't go like with your hand up on top, do it from the side. Make sure you're on the side. And sometimes you can actually use something to hold it here, and that will make it easier. Lighters, you might want to buy several if you're going to use a lighter. This is just a plain old Scripto lighter, but I do have others I prefer. But this is the one that was just here. Buy several because this part gets hot if you end up using lighters. I also use a torque. I use different things. Candles, you could use a candle or a lighter, whichever. But I'm going to show you more detail on creating this one. Because I'm making different sizes, you can see this one's a little bit bigger than this one. And I just use a different size of the fabric. My goal was a different goal. Okay, so here's my piece of fabric. For those of you who like it fast, there it is fast for you, okay? But this fabric right here is a vintage lining fabric. It almost feels like a chiffon. It's kind of thick. This one's 4 inches long, wide. And then all I did was cut my fabric into like even parts. The length is not that important. If you want it thicker and bigger, then you add more. When you're making ends up being about a 3-inch flower, and this is almost 12 inches long. So there we go. And then I'm also going to show you with the ruler, because I've shown you guys before. This is just a wood ruler. I probably got this from Dollar Tree. And each wood ruler is different. The rulers are different sizes, but you can make a cardboard. You don't have to use a ruler if you don't have one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around here. And this is the width of this ruler is 1 inch. There's some that are 1.5 inch wide, and some that are even thicker than that you maybe use for sewing. Those types of rulers. My goal when I'm rolling this is I'm looking here to make sure that one side is even. I use my fingers also, but I feel like people who learn can learn better from this. And then later on, if you want to, you'll see I use my fingers in a lot of my. One of the important things is do not make this tight, because you want to be able to slide it off. One of the things that happens to me if I make it too tight, I hold it from here and I pull downward because I don't want it to go up and pull out. I want it to stay. Okay. And then depending on how much fabric you have, you can do this or you might not be able to do this, but I'm folding this one in half. And I've been starting to use the pin. It kind of helps me when I'm cutting, so it's easier to hold it. And then I also leave it in there while I'm cutting it. Then I take my, let me see what's on the side here. And I was looking for my other scissors, but yeah, I'm making my white fabric dirty. Okay, then I go, and I want you to look, my dirty thumb. Well, I don't want you to look at my dirty thumb, but I want you to look at the shape of it. So you're just shaping it very slightly. Now, if you want your petals to be thin, then you make them thin. But I'm just shaping them a little. I'm cutting off a little here. There you go. You just shape it a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do it. And if you want to make it thinner, you can actually cut it down lower if you wish. And then I come over here. When you roll it like that, then there's only one bunch, and you can cut it this way. And I go almost all the way to that pin. And I kick it like this, and I go almost all the way to the pin. And I do it on both sides. Okay. So look at all this. And now at this point, there are different points I like to, if my fabric frayed a lot, this fabric doesn't fray a lot, so it doesn't even need to be sealed. If you want like a shabby flower, and then I pull it off, throw some of this away. So when you use a smaller flower, you can use less fabric. When you want a bigger flower, you can use more fabric, or you can make it wider, depending on what you want it to look like. Like this flower right here, I wanted it to look messy because I want it to look like a flower. When I place it on my wreath, I'll be placing it like this, and it'll look like it's just a beautiful flower just coming out. This one is made with an organza type curtain fabric, and it was hard for me to use it for the actual wreath, but I really liked the color and the texture, and I was able to make it for the wreath. So this one frayed a lot. So anyway, so then I'm just gonna take this and pins. I use bobby pins. I discovered how to use them like this for a while, and when I was a new crafter and crafting on my own, and I thought, how can I gather that without sewing it? And this is what I came up with. Now, I do know that it's not unique. It's not unique to me because I started making them on my own, and I hadn't really seen people make them before like this. But most people that I've heard that there were that they used to make the flowers like that a long time ago. And I liked how I could make this flower, and I'm not working with every individual petal. This is one of the things I liked about it. And I'm not doing a lot of sewing. I don't know why. I don't like to sew that much, but I do enjoy some sewing. In fact, I have some sewing projects I'm thinking about doing soon. But then I gather it up, and I have this big pin. I think I bought this pin at Walmart. It's a real big one. There's some that are smaller. You can use different ones, but the more fabric you use, the bigger pin you want to use, because it makes it easier to hold. There you go. See that? And then I'll show you this. A lot of times I'll take it to this point, and then might be the point where I go and I use my, although this lighter is not staying on very well. Let me find another one. I don't know why. I don't use them that often. I use a candle or something else. And you can, one of the points I will tell you about, I'm not going to melt this whole thing, but I'm just going to show you a demonstration, is that you're not putting it on the flame, because then it'll start fire. Make sure you're safe and you have water around you, especially when you're not skilled. And I'm not touching the fabric. I'm letting the heat of the flame roll it up. You see that? Can you see that? And it's the heat of the flame that's getting it. And it's probably about a 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch away from the actual flower. A petal, I mean, the fabric petal. And this is a synthetic, so it will melt. But my finger's already hot, so I don't use it that often. I more often, if I'm going to make a lot of flowers, more often use a candle or I use a torque lighter, one of the ones that you might use to light a long one. Get one like that, and that'll help you to be able to do it. And you can do it fast or slow. Okay, so I put it on like this. One person was asking me a few times, well, why is mine falling apart when I take off the pin? You're probably not wrapping your string around the pin. When you first start, you want like instead of maybe 12 inches, maybe you want to make them smaller, and you don't want to make them so fluffy. Make them flatter. Use less fabric. Just use less. Instead of what this made, I don't know how many petals, probably 20 petals or so. And then what I do is, you got to make sure I put it through here on this side. Okay, since that person's having trouble on this side, I put it around that way. And then another tip is to, when you're wrapping it, I'm using 100% cotton string. I do it twice, and this helps it to stay on. Okay, I'm going to show you several times because I know this person was having trouble. I tighten it pretty tight, and then I start pulling out the pin, and I tighten it again if I need to. And when I bring it out, it's tight. See? So that means if yours is just falling apart after you get it out of the pin, you're probably using too much fabric, and you don't have a good handle on it, or you're not wrapping around the fabric. You're wrapping around the fabric, and the pin is helping you keep it together. Okay, and then if you notice here, I see one petal here that's sticking out a lot compared to the others. And I'll try to figure out which is the other side of it, and I'll just tug on that. I'm not sure which one it is. That was not that one. I think it's way down here. Yeah, it was way down there. So I'll pull on them. I'll still look at it at this point and see how even it looks for me. It doesn't matter if it's that even, because they can be different sizes. And then I come on this side and I flip it to the back, and I usually knot it again. Now, depending on how you're using this string could actually be used to attach it to something, instead of you taking off the string and cutting it short and putting I feel like these type of flowers don't need to have that felt in the back, because I can use this to sew it on. I could tie it on with this. Okay, so now it's a little bit flat. So if you want a flat flower, then use less fabric and it'll come out flatter. But if you want a nice full flower, then use, that was a 12 inches. So there you go. It's very simple, easy. And now you can do more melting of it. You can add different centers. You can add lace in the center. You can add whatever you want to it, and you can layer it. Like this one can go on top of this pink one if I wanted to, see? And it would make it bigger and give it a beautiful look to go on top of that. See, that's really pretty. You can make it smaller too, but this is Liz with Crafty Devotion. I'm just here. I was just showing you how I made these flowers, and just because I'm busy making a wreath, and I make my own flowers for my wreaths, and you can see how they can be layered together, and you can add any centers that you want. By the way, I do carry some centers in my shop, my Etsy shop. Just visit my Etsy shop, craftydevotion.etsy.com, and you will find it. I usually have a link in the description box of my tutorials. But that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time.